All right, SAG-AFTRA Foundation, we're back. How are you, everybody? Well, ladies and gentlemen, what did you think of Berlin Syndrome? Well, giving a riveting performance, please welcome Teresa Palmer. Have a seat. So it was really funny. I on social media I went out and I said, oh yeah, I'm doing this Q&A with Teresa Palmer for Berlin Syndrome, and somebody replied, that movie's awesome. I saw it at Sundance. It's like the real life 50 Shades of Grey.
I saw that.
You saw
my
that?
God, I was like, well, not really, but
You're like, what? Well, no, not really. All right. Well, I have to say that it really is. I mean, it's so riveting and engrossing, especially the way the relationship evolves between Claire and Andi. But you know, when you first approached to do this, like, what was your first impression of the screenplay? Because it's a page turner, I must imagine.
yeah, I was on the set of another film, and I got it, and I heard that it was Kate Shortland's movie, and I've been a massive fan of hers for a really long time. I saw Somersault many years ago. I don't know if anyone else has seen that film, but it's just this beautiful, it's just this beautiful story about this young woman kind of coming into her own, and Abby Cornish played the lead, and she was so stunning in the film. And ever since then, I always wanted to work with her. So I read the film. I thought it was completely riveting, exactly what you said, and a real page turner. And there was something about Claire that I fell in love with. And I think maybe it's because she's so far from who I am.
Oh, wait, let me stop you right there. How so?
Well, pretty much in every aspect. She's, you know, I'm a very open person. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm very, you know, I guess I'm an extrovert and I'm bubbly. She is completely the polar opposite to that. So she has a lot of self-loathing and she's introverted and there's a huge void within her, and she's kind of seeking out these dangerous experiences, and she's just, she's in a lot of suffering.
Well, what's it like to really get into a character who is not only such a polar opposite of you, but someone who is more introverted and in a darker place, and to be immersed in a character like that for 6 weeks that you made the movie?
Yeah.
You know, how do you just pop back out of that?
Well, I actually did have to. I shot, we did 3 weeks in Berlin, so we did all of the exterior stuff there. And then we had a 3-week hiatus, and so I figured I'd just kind of go home, hang out with my kids. And then I got a phone call saying, oh, Mel Gibson wants you to do Hacksaw Ridge. Can you come down and film some scenes in your hiatus? And I was like, there's no way I can drop this character and go be like Dorothy Doss in, like, you know, the 1940s, a woman of great faith with this accent. It was so incredibly challenging, and after that, I did Hacksaw in between on the hiatus. I went back to Berlin Syndrome. I had to finish Hacksaw after that. So I was doing both films at the same time, and I ended up taking a year off after that. I was like, and I'm done.
What's wrong with mommy?
I know.
What was it like sort of jumping back and forth between Berlin and then Hacksaw and then Berlin and then Hacksaw again? I mean, it's got to be a challenge for any actor or actress.
Yeah, also because they're just completely different characters, really different directors. It was just a completely challenging and exhausting experience, truly. There was a lot of travel. I also, my son was 15 months old at the time, and my husband was working elsewhere. So it was just me and my son and my mum just traveling around from like film to film. So it was definitely an intense period, but I loved it. I loved the challenge, and I feel like I can only I had to lean into that. I had to lean into those experiences and the fear that came up surrounding it, and just kind of find my flow with it. And I did that. And I'm proud of both movies.
You know, one of the things I love the most about the Sundance Film Festival, it is my favorite film festival, because I feel like of any film festival, it is the real the best chance you're going to have for really discovering films and filmmakers and acting talent and directing talent. And I got to say, in the 15 consecutive years that I covered Sundance, I've never seen more films by female directors than I did this year. So tell me about working with Kate Shortland and like what made her such a favorite of yours to begin with.
Kate is such a unique individual. She has that beautiful quality about her that, you know, anyone who has children, you know that children see the world in such a different way from adults. They appreciate the little tiny things and they take notice of the stuff that we become desensitized to. And somehow Kate has managed to hold on to that. And you'll notice from the film the moments where the camera lingers on the little things I do with my hands and like the way I touch my hair and the way my feet sound when it's crunching glass. Like she embraces and just celebrates those little moments in life that we often forget about. And I thought it was so poetic and beautiful and it said so much. And for that, I really am, I'm just so intrigued by her work.
How did you prepare for this role? Did you maybe meet with people who've been abducted and just sort of like get into their head and sort of get into the state of mind that Clare has, especially when she just sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say accepts her situation, but she definitely doesn't have that need to escape like she did in the very beginning.
Yeah, I think she comes to a place of of acceptance. I do think that's really the only thing she can do. She has to go inwards. She knows she can't escape. And so she has to come to a place where she accepts what's going on. And there's healing in that and there's freedom in that too. And I think that was quite beautiful. And it really is such an incredible character study on, you know, just trauma. And also, I love that it's not black and white. I love that it's not just a perpetrator and a victim. It just shows humanity and it shows that there's a dark universe that exists in all of us. But he isn't all parts evil and she isn't all parts good. And I loved that about this film. And because of that, it was complex. We did a 3-week rehearsal period. I've never done that before in a film, especially in this way, because the rehearsal wasn't just like you have the script and you read your lines. We would go into the room with one another and I'd talk about my life and my way and my spirit and the things I believe in, and he would do the same things, and we would pick little pieces of each other's stories and we'd inject that into the film, and it was just a beautiful collaboration. And I thought Kate was so brilliant the way she did that.
It was interesting because you talk about Andi, Max, Rymelt.
Yeah.
He, you know, when he abducts her, you know, you want to be like, you want to hate him. Yeah. But then you kind of don't. You do, you don't. You sympathize with him. I mean, especially the relationship with his dad. I mean, it is a complex. Both characters are complex. So what was it like working with Max? Because he's, both performances, it hinges on your relationship.
Yes, absolutely. It was great. He was so nervous when we got to the rehearsal period. It was in Berlin, and we both thought we were going to get fired. You know, it's that like that like actor's insecurity where it's like I never believe I'm actually doing the film, and it's going to happen until we wrap the film. Like, oh my god, I didn't get fired. Sweet. So we both were so incredibly nervous every day during rehearsals. And he is very different to me. He is actually more similar to Clare. He's very introverted, very private, quiet, shy, doesn't like a lot of attention.
You should have abducted him.
Yeah, I know. And so for him to have to just bare his soul during these rehearsals, I really felt like I could nurture him, and it was this beautiful dance between us, and he was so brave to do that because it's completely goes against his nature. But he knew that that's what Kate needed from us, that she really needed us to crack open and to trust her, and that she would set the parameters, and then within those parameters we could play and explore and discover. And I loved him. He ended up becoming such an amazing part of my life, and we had beautiful chemistry, and I felt held by him. The whole time I felt held by him, which was lovely.
You talk about exploring and discovering. Were you encouraged to or supported to sort of develop the character beyond what was written from the page? Maybe improvise a little.
Yeah, I mean, we took it to crazy places. And that's what that period of time before we shot was about, was just what's on the page. Okay, let's go crazy with this. I mean, that scene where I'm on the bed in the little pink outfit, and the little lacy outfit, and I'm kind of doing the kung fu moves. I was like rapping. I was like pretending to have sex with him. I was doing the craziest stuff because she was like, go for it. Do the most bizarre, act like an animal, do like whatever it is that you can come up with. Because she's kind of lost her mind in that moment. I mean, she gets to a point where her mind's escaped her and she's off, which is completely understandable given the situation she's in. And God, I felt so liberated as a performer to be able to try things and fail and just make a fool of myself. And I got to experience that. And that's such a rare thing. I think when you do a movie, it's very clear cut. You have your script, you know your character, you do what you think the director wants you to do. But with this, she was like, you take her in all directions. Show me every single color. I was like, all right. And I got to do that.
You know, this is the kind of film where when you watch it in a theater, when you watch it with a group, a shared experience, you hear the reactions. When I saw it at Sundance, you know, like when they were in the woods and like, you're just like, run, like you're just like, go, pick up a rock, hit him on the head, you know, pick up the knife and stab him in the kitchen. Like, you know, people are just like, you know, but you don't, it's easy for you to say because you're not in there, you know? And also at the end, when she picks up the folder and the picture drops out, everybody goes, oh.
I know. Every screening, people are like, oh.
That's a testament to the film that people are just that vested. But like, what does it say about sort of the relationship between the two of them that she doesn't? I mean, I just like I was intrigued by the way the relationship evolved in that way, that maybe she could have
stayed.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, again, I love how complex it is. I think as an outsider, you can look in and be like, he's a horrible human being. But then really, like, you get beneath who he actually is and the trauma that he experienced ages 0 to 17 with his mother, the way he cares for his father and taking off his shoes, and just there's a humanity to him. There is some goodness in him as well, and she sees that and she feels that and she knows that's in there, and she's constantly trying to speak to that side of him. And I love that Kate she didn't play it safe. I actually think it's almost safer just to have a clear cut like protagonist and antagonist. Whereas this, it was just very blurry in many scenes. And that to me is true life. That is what life is. Life is many, many shades, and it is so complex, and there aren't even words to describe the way life is and how different people are. And I know I am a million different things. I can't be labeled one thing or another. And that was beautiful about this film.
Amen. Wow. Would you say that this was the most challenging role you've done to date, and how so?
Yes. You know, I think it's the first time for me. I kind of started my career and I would take any job I could get because it was so exciting, and you know, I just got an agent and I started getting to book work, and oh my gosh, it was so thrilling. And now I think over the last few years I've become a mother, and you know, I have 2 kids now, and I just look at the world differently, and I want to tell different kinds of stories. So this one, I wanted to play this complex character, but for me it meant I had to dive into her 100% and just wear her on me. And I found that incredibly challenging because, you know, I'm also a mum and I have these responsibilities, and I my husband's wasn't with me. It was just me essentially being a single mum with my 15-month-old playing this character, and that juggle was actually the most challenging for me. So it wasn't so much the acting. I loved it. I loved being there on set. It was the in-between moments when I would come home and she'd still be all over me. I would feel her on me in the shower. I would just I couldn't get her out of me. And that's really hard when you have this little 15-month-old, expecting mummy to come and do all the things mummy does. So I had to basically act with him. And that was really challenging. I still have to perfect that balance, I think. And that was the last film that I've done. I took that full year off just to rejuvenate and be a mama. I get pregnant again. I have my second kid. And so I know I'm looking at that. That's going to happen again, and I've got to really figure out the balance there and how I can do that.
In terms of balance, while you were struggling, when did you start to feel like you reached a point where, okay, I'm here, I made it? Was there a specific moment where you're like, I'm here, I'm doing it?
Probably that scene on the bed in the pink lingerie, because that's. It was so amazing because she has her power back in that moment, and he wanted her to strip for him and be sexy for him, and we described it as she strips like she's a truck driver, the way she's stomping across the bed, and it's absolutely
confident,
totally, and she's doing the polar opposite to his expectations and his desire in that moment, and it's so brave and ballsy, and she just owns that room, and she takes the power back, and I loved it so much. And I knew it was a very important scene in the film, and it was about halfway through filming in the second half of the shoot, and I just clicked in and got in flow that day and was really... I could feel the crew enjoying it. I could feel that it was working, and I remember... I could just see Kate's face, and I was like, oh, we've landed. Yeah. We've landed now.
Did they everyone applaud when we were done shooting that scene, that the wing get take? Great job.
Yeah, and it was a scene that everyone would talk about afterwards. When you were doing the thing.
When did you first realize you wanted to be an actress? Was it a movie you saw or a TV show you saw, actor, actress that you went, oh, I want to do what they're doing?
Yeah, I saw a movie probably in 1996. Which is called A Little Princess, Alfonso Cuarón. Is that how you pronounce his last name? Cuarón. Yep. There's nowhere near. Anyway, but I loved Liesl Matthews, the little girl that played the actress in the film, and I was the same age as her, I think, at the time, and I wanted that. I wanted that experience. It felt magical, and it wasn't something I could articulate. It was just more of this feeling. I had this feeling where it felt like me. And I was like, I need to experience this. And, I had a really sort of colorful childhood. And I think for me, films was kind of like an escapism. And I didn't have any brothers or sisters, so I just would get lost in my imagination. And that was a film that I would watch it over and over and over, and it almost became like company for me. Yeah, and it was from that moment I was like, I want to do what she's doing.
So it's like when you watch a film, it feels like you're with a friend.
Totally.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Star Trek, by the way.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
It's true. But over your career, what actors or actresses that you worked with inspired you?
So many. I would say, Christian Bale obviously was one. It's more directors. So many incredible actors I've worked with, but it's the directors really. Terrence Malick, he reinvigorated my passion in making films. I think I had gotten to a point before the Terrence film where I've been doing these big blockbuster films, but I really was playing these roles that serviced the man's story. I was the girlfriend role or the love interest, and I was made to look a certain way, and I had just run out of steam. I was like, I want to just get married and have some babies, and I'm not sure if I want to continue this. And then all of a sudden, this Malick film lands on my lap, and it was funny. The role, I wasn't even supposed to be in that movie, and I had auditioned and I hadn't got the role, and I was really bummed out because I had put him on my manifest board. He was like front and center on my manifest board, and I was like, I'm gonna work with Terrence Malick. And then this opportunity came up, and then I didn't get the role, and I was like, oh, but I manifested that. Why didn't I get the role? And then you know, he does this great auditioning process, which is where you don't actually read lines. You speak the way I'm speaking. You just kind of talk for like 20 minutes about various things in your life, and you tell stories. And so he gets to know your spirit and your essence, which I think is so brilliant. And then you kind of read a piece of his writing, very poetic writing, and then you just someone takes it away. You don't get to keep it. And then you just kind of ad lib from that. And then you just sort of do your own version of what he's written. So what I loved about it was that I just thought that process was so incredible. And then I got to set, and I was only meant to do one scene. He rang up and said, I really liked your audition, and I know you didn't get the role, but if you could come and just do this one scene, would you be willing to do that? And I was like, oh my God, absolutely. I will do anything. I'll be an extra in the background. And I did this one scene in a strip club with Christian Bale. And then it just was so liberating, kind of like Kate. He set the playground, and then you got to play. And it was so interesting. He was finding all these real moments because I wasn't just reading off of a script. And then he came up to me afterwards. He was like, what are you doing later? Would you like to be in the next scene? And I was like, yes, I would. And then it was funny because every night I'd get a phone call saying, could you come in tomorrow? What about the next day? Are you free the next day? Can you jump on a plane? We're going to go to Vegas. We want you to come with. So I ended up getting this role in this Terrence Malick movie from just this one scene. And I loved it. I was like, this is what art is. This is what filmmaking is. This is amazing. So I'd say him.
Do you feel like working with Malick brought out the best in you to do Hacksaw Ridge and Berlin Syndrome?
Yeah, working with Malick?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Definitely. All of a sudden, I was inspired. I was like, whoa, art can be cathartic. It can be so many things. It doesn't just have to be the experiences I've been having. Let me be brave. Let me work with independent filmmakers on smaller films. And I have a voice. I have a voice. I don't just have to do the things my agents are telling me to do. So that's what I did, and it totally changed my career. And over the last few years, I've been only doing things that I feel incredibly passionate about and inspired by. And also I want to work with good people. I think life is too short to work with a-holes, and I want to be connected to the people I work with. And luckily enough, the last few years I've been able to do that, including Mel and Kate.
So who else, other directors would you really like to work with? I mean, I know there's probably some obvious ones, but...
Well, Alfonso, only because I feel like I'd come full circle. Yeah. It'd be so cool to sit him down and be like, this is the most surreal thing that I get to work with you, and you were the reason why. So I would love to work with him. A lot of great female directors. I know Rachel Griffiths is heading in. She's wanting to start doing directing. I'd love to work with her. I think she's phenomenal. Anyone with a vision and a unique idea who are telling truthful stories grounded in reality. Anyone. I don't care if you've had experience or if you haven't. I just love people who have cool ideas left of center. I'm interested in that. And yeah.
Well, we have some SAG-AFTRA Foundation members who have questions.
Great.
So the first one is from Jerry Angelo. Where are you, Jerry? Oh, right in the front row.
Oh, yeah.
That is commitment. He not only has a question, he's in the front row.
Yes.
Jerry's question is, can you tell us the process of how you and your representation worked on what your branding would be and how that led to where you are at now?
That's a really good question, because I do think a lot of actors have people who definitely say like, all right, this is the game plan. And I definitely, we did that at the beginning part of my career, I think. And now we're in a place where I do feel like I have more of a voice. So I've been curating projects in a different way. I think that our focus is on filmmakers. It's who has an individual voice. They don't have to be the biggest filmmaker. They don't have to be a name filmmaker. It's like, who are those interesting people? A lot of them, by the way, are coming out of Australia. There are great Aussie filmmakers who are just starting to find their feet and get good work. And so our focus has been, why don't we find those, especially those homegrown talents, and be in those films and start from that place. So that was a conversation this year. And then also I would prefer not to work than to just do film. For the sake of doing films, I want them to be special and something that I feel really connected to. And that's why I took a year off, truly, because I wanted to have the right thing. So right now I'm just waiting. I'm waiting until it feels totally right.
Around the time when you started to get your break, what about with the branding in that area?
That was just blockbuster films, essentially. Yeah, I think their game plan at the time was, and I just listened, by the way, because I was early 20s. Didn't even know that this would ever happen to me. My first film premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, and that doesn't happen usually. Usually you're waiting tables and you're fighting so hard, and I just happened to be in a film that premiered at Cannes, so I was very lucky. And then from that point, they said, we got to raise the profile, raise that profile. So then when you raise a profile, you then have the freedom to be able to pick and choose the projects and get independent films financed and various things like that. So now I'm in a better position to be able to do things like that, where I can read scripts and say, I want to do this. How do we get this financed? And that's exciting. So that's why I was doing, I did a Jerry Bruckheimer film, and I did I Am Number 4, which was kind of a more popcorn movie. Warm Bodies really was the one that gave me momentum. Yep. And that, by the way, was so cool because it was a blockbuster film, but it felt like an independent because the script was great, the director was amazing, the actors were phenomenal. And so that was a big game changer for me, that one.
Great question. This one is from Tasha. Where are you? Hi, Tasha. Right behind you. Okay. This question, do you coordinate this? Just, question for Teresa. Do you have a profound way, first the statement, you have a profound way of inhabiting distressed yet resilient characters who are fighters at heart. What techniques or thought processes do you use to prepare for such a role, and does it ever affect your life offset? Great question.
That is a really good question. Generally, it doesn't. That's why I was so shocked and I needed to take time off, because I do have this ability where I can just stop it at the end of the day. I can just totally wipe a character clean and go home and make dinner and have fun with the kids. But this one was just such a different process for me. And maybe, honestly, it was because my husband was shooting a film at the same time. And he wasn't there, so I also didn't have my foundation with me, my solid guy to, help me out. I was kind of on my own. But yeah, my process, I guess, I don't have a strict process. I've actually never had acting lessons or anything, so it's all kind of intuitive. And so it's just this organic feeling, and I like to kind of tap into childhood experiences. That's always usually where I go, because I did have kind of a dysfunctional upbringing, and so I have a lot of cool material to pull from. And so I usually do that, but it can be hard to leave it at the end of the day, definitely. And on this one, I struggled. So I'm excited to do something like this again. I really am drawn to dark material for some reason. No one understands why, because I'm
So
not a
outgoing.
dark person. Yeah, I'm really not a dark person, but I am drawn. I love true crime. I listen to the gnarly podcasts, like true crime podcasts. Like I watch all of the, Making a Murderer, all that stuff I loved. But so I want to do it again, but I want to figure out a way of splitting the difference if I can. Yeah.
Last question is from me.
Oh, great.
Okay. So, for everyone in the audience, is there any advice you have for aspiring actors, actresses? Advice that you wish someone had told you when you were going through it yourself?
I would say don't forget that you have a voice and that you can be in charge of your own path. I think I was so insecure and vulnerable when I first started that I just listened to what everyone else told me to do. And I stopped letting my voice be the loudest voice. And it always has to be. I think that's the most important thing. And really have a clear idea of your intentions. What is your intention surrounding your desire to be a film actor? Where does that come from? And lean into it. Lean so far into it. And I would say yes to the opportunities that inspire you. And I have been an extra on so many movies. I've done so many unpaid short films. I have been in so many student films. I've done, I've done all of that stuff. And I would run up to the lead actor and be like, who's your agent? Who are you represented by? And I would go and write down that agency. And, I was emailing the William Morris agency from Adelaide, South Australia from age 15. Like, I was like, I would like to be an actress. And obviously I didn't hear back. And now I'm represented by them.
You will now. You will now.
Obviously, yeah. So, and now they're my agents. So...
Ladies and gentlemen, Berlin Syndrome opens Friday. Please spread the word.
Please,
and
thank you.
give a hand for Teresa Palmer.
Thank you.